Welcome, welcome. I am so
Thank
excited today. Today to have. I am so excited today. Oh, wait a minute. You hear it in the background. Today to have. I am so excited today. Oh, wait a minute. You hear it in the background. Today. There we go. It's like modern technology. This shit happens all the time. I just got on before we even get started. I just got on somebody with Zoom, one of my clients actually last week, and I'm sitting there and I'm going through and she's like, and I said, Dickie, I can't hear you. And she's like, she's like doing all this. And I'm like, go through the chat. And I'm like, okay, I want you to go into your preferences and like, go and look at your audios. Cause she's like, it's all good. And then I'm like, all right, let's go through. I was like, make sure your buttons are hit. And then I'm like, unmute. I just actually had the volume off on my computer. And so I hit the button. I was like, I can hear you now. So sorry.
Right. I know every meeting I'm still talking while I'm muted. And people are like, you're muted. I'm like, this is 2 years in. You would think we got this all figured out. But no, we did not.
No, I clearly don't. I still start a bunch of these meetings and I'm like, shit, somebody's muted. So whatever, it's fine. Anyways, all right. So welcome. I've got Da'Na Langford here today. We're going to talk a little bit about side hustles, a little bit about some of the work that she's doing with an organization that she's built called Village of Healing, and then also a little about her other business and consulting. So we're going to go through it. So Da'Na, thank you for being here. You and I kind of know each other from our midwifery days. You're still in it. Let's just be clear. You're still very.
I know.
But I would love to tell.
I do not want to be, but yes, I am.
Tell people, if you would, I would love it. Just tell people a little bit about your background and like the 2-minute version and kind of how you got started and how you got to, where you are today.
So 2-minute version, I graduated from Eastern Michigan with a bachelor's degree in sports medicine, athletic training. I knew like in the last 2 quarters that was not for me. And then I also had a director tell me at the time it wasn't a good profession for me as a Black woman. But I was like all those semesters in, and my mother was like, so this is what we paid for. Let's suck this up. So I went ahead, graduated, got my degree. At the time, I started working at a women's shelter afterwards. And I started also working for the county where I was working in their employment and family services system or their welfare system. And I knew I wanted to do something different and I wanted to work with a vulnerable population. And while I was at the shelter, I had the opportunity to shadow a nurse practitioner. And at the time I thought maybe OBGYN, and she was like, no, if you're going to do that, you want to be a midwife. And at the time I didn't know what a midwife was. So I had the opportunity to view a friend's birth, to witness a friend's birth who actually had a midwife. So she invited me into the room so that I could see what a midwife does. And I fell in love with the profession. And I knew that as a Black woman, and I was going into all these doctors' offices to see people, and I never saw anyone that looks like me except the people at the front desk. And so I wanted to be able to be that face that when young Black women especially walked into an office, they could say, you know what? I can actually do that. And I came from similar backgrounds. I didn't grow up privileged. I didn't grow up with, money. I just grew up with a mom that hustled and made sure that I got through. And so I wanted to be able to share that story. And so I went back to the Ohio State University and
Girl, you got to put the Ohio State University.
Yes.
We just got to be clear on that. Yes.
Yes, very much. No other, but the one. And so I went back there, did the direct entry program, got my master's in midwifery, my master's of science with a specialization in midwifery and women's health. When I graduated, I knew I only wanted to work with, like I said, the vulnerable population, and I wanted to be in Black communities. And so I practiced in Albany, Georgia, which was a majority Black community. And I also practiced in St. Petersburg, Florida, which was a Black community, and both of those were FQHCs. I got really, really homesick, came home. I practiced at Akron General for a year, and then just recently at University Hospitals, where we met for the last 5 years.
Yeah. Is that how long you were there? 5 years?
Yes. Well, I left in May, and in June it would have been 5.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I knew probably, how did I get to where I am now in my organization now? I knew probably, and I think you and I had the conversation, I knew about 3 years ago that I was burned out. I remember graduating from grad school thinking, this is it. I'm set. I'm going to love what I do for the rest of my life. And I'm going to have all the energy to do it. Akron, I started feeling some burnout, but by the end, like I said, 3 years, I definitely was done. And I felt that burnout. And then at that point, I had become more aware of the infant mortality crisis. I had become more aware of Black women's treatment in hospital systems. I would look back on my own treatment and family's treatment, and I knew that I couldn't make a difference in the system, and I had to get out the system to push it. I knew that being in the system would cause retaliation, and I still had to censor myself, and I could not be authentically me. And so I myself and my business partner met in the system and decided we both had to get out for our own sanity, mental health, and for our people. And so we stepped out and we started Village of Healing. We originally started it as a community-based program to offer community programming, with this wild idea of eventually developing a community within the community. And we thought it was a wild idea, but less than a year later, after we had talked to clients, our own experiences, and we were starting to see more and more the racism that was happening in healthcare, we decided to do the Village of Healing Center. And so we started working on that April of this year. No, it's been a little bit. It hasn't been a year yet. And that's going to be opening in December. So the whole goal of Village of Healing is to take care of women holistically, and to provide culturally sensitive care while doing it. We are Black women. We know what we need. We know how to listen to us. And so that's what we want to provide. The center itself focuses on Black providers caring for Black patients. And I've heard everything under the sun. And I always have to say, this is an evidence-based practice. It's not racist. It's not discriminatory. It is an evidence-based practice. And we know, and the research says that when you have Black providers taking care of Black patients, the outcomes are better, the disparities decrease, and patient satisfaction increases. So that's the goal.
So tell us a little bit about this clinic that's going to open in December, and how did you decide? I mean, because it's one thing to have a wild idea about, and we could just back up and say you guys have all for some time had an idea, your wild idea about what you wanted to do and the impact that you wanted to create in the community. And when did you find that taking your experience as an advanced practice nurse and not doing just the community aspect of it, but creating a clinic? It's like those are two different things. When did that become kind of part of the conversation?
I think that, Village of Healing was created because we sat in rooms. We sat in all types of rooms about infant mortality and maternal mortality. And those rooms would have 50 to 60 people and only 3 Black people in the room. And they were coming up with all these interventions for the Black community that we knew wouldn't work. They hadn't talked to not one Black person. They had not set one Black person on these exploratory committees. And we felt it was the white savior complex. Like, we know what you guys need, and we're going to provide that. And I think the final straw for us was when we sat in a meeting of 44128 at the time, had gone from being having the largest infant mortality rate in infant deaths to having 0 in 1 year just from implementing community organization. And I remember thinking, we're done, let's go. We're done having this conversation. And we were told by an all-white room that 7 to 10 more years of data would be needed before anything could be implemented. And I remember thinking at that time, I was 37 maybe. And I was like, I don't have 5 to 10 more years. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Right.
I'm about to be 40. I'm literally having conversations about freezing my eggs. Like, what do you mean 7 to 10 more years? So I think that was just really, really disturbing for us. And then when news stories and social media started really showing the disparities, and my friends were calling me saying that they didn't want any more children because they were afraid. And then hearing their stories when they went to doctors' offices, because of course they were more heightened. They were hearing, providers saying, no, that there's nothing wrong with you. I'm not gonna do that. You're fine. No, you don't need medicine. And at the time, my uncle had a stroke as well. And I remember walking into the ER and he was holding a gown naked, and they were like, he's fine, you can take him home. He's like, I don't know what to do with this. And I literally had to demand for them to do a scan to see if he had a stroke. And so I think it was just a combination of all of that to say, and we were speaking up. We were speaking up in these systems. I've been speaking up my whole career, but we started facing retaliation for speaking up. And it was apparent that the system was comfortable in where they were, and that the system was very good at talking. The system was very good. We saw with the Black Square, with the diversity statements when George Floyd was murdered. We saw how great systems were at putting up a united front. And I even posted this, but you can do that all day. But if I go talk to your Black employees from EVS up, what will their experience and what will they be able to say? And so at that moment, it was a couple different things. Number one, you were very instrumental in saying, get out and go do it and stop talking about it. Our families were very supportive to say, we support you 100%, we back you. And then we still were pity-pattying around. And then I think you were a great force with Tanisha, and I stepped in with Tanisha, my business partner, to say, you gotta leave. Her mental health was starting to be affected. And I hated to see her like that. And I knew what it could do to our stress wise, with how toxic stress weathers Black women and the effects it would have. And so I said, you gotta quit and we'll figure it out. And then my health started being affected from toxic stress. And so at that moment, I was like, we got to go all in or go home, and I can't go home. So we just put feet to the fire. We have a supportive system. Our board that we've implemented has been super awesome. Our friendship circles have stepped in and volunteered a lot. And we just worked and made it happen. We have fallen on our face flat, like up with bloody faces, broken teeth, swollen lips. But it's been great. It's been great because I know that we're doing it the way we want to do it and we know works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so powerful to just, to be the person who says, I know what conventional, wisdom or conventional, the systems approach says, or what the mainstream approach is. And then to know, it's one thing to know it in your heart to say, like, this is the right way to do it, there's a different way to do business. And I know that exists. It could be different. And to then see it be, verified also by research to be like, yeah, of course, there's an evidence-based approach that works. But then it's a whole different conversation to then be a person who says, I'm going to take that and go do something with it. Like, I'm going to actually be the person who builds a clinic or takes, the expertise that I have and packages it in a way that supports, the community in that. I mean, it's just like I think it's a tremendous step, and it speaks volumes just about you guys and the work that you're doing. I'm curious, and I think too, I think it resonates, and I think there are a lot of people, not only in this group, who have, whether it's doing something that has the passion behind it that this does, and that really is like very focused and authentic to them, just like Village of Healing is to you and Tanisha, But there are people who are also, you know, in entrepreneurship who are like dipping a toe in it, like, let me just see what I can do with some templates or something, you know, like, or like writing a book or whatever it is that their kind of small hustle is, or their kind of side gig. And I think that conversation about failure and just being also, again, being the person who's willing to have the bloodied face, the chipped teeth, be like, you know, scraped ears because your cheek hit the side and then your ear got it too. And like your earrings got all fucked up. And you're like, oh, all right, let me just get my like good creams and let me just repair the shit out of this. And then I'm going to get a new pair of earrings and do my hair tomorrow. And I'm going to come on back and like just keep showing up, which is huge.
Right. I think that, and I always tell people this. I remember when people told me a while ago, you should start your own practice. And I'm like, absolutely not. I am not entrepreneur spirit. I do not have the entrepreneur spirit. I am not entrepreneurial material. I did not wake up one day and say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm walking away from my full-time job. I was forced into mine for my own mental health and for my own physical health. I was backed into a corner and I was forced into mine. And when you're forced into it, it's a whole lot different because there's no plan B.
But wait a minute. But you could have just been like, well, I'm gonna go and leave this
dip my toe. I could have. You're right.
You could have.
You're right.
You made it.
I agree. I definitely had a choice. I did not know it would be as hard as it was, which is crazy.
Yeah. Like all things though. Did you know?
Right, like all things. All things. You know, I would encourage, if you have the desire to do it, if you have just an inkling, and there's one person that is speaking into your life about that inkling to do it, do it. Because if that one person is speaking into you to do it, there are 50 more that are going to encourage you and back you and be there 100% for you. So, you know, when I say it's hard, it is, but I have such a strong support system. In addition to, I give all the credit to my business partner. Like the fact that I have a partner, and a lot of people don't, but that I have a partner that I'm like, I'm done today. I got the headache and I have nothing to give. And she'll be like, that's fine, and stay up and do it. So yes, it is hard. It is difficult. You will bruise yourself up, but it is so worth it. And I still feel like the good days outweigh the bad.
Yeah.
And the spiritual side of me always is, God always shows me in a moment of despair, something so huge and so great that means nothing. And I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah. And I think too, but like, think about it this way. And I think it's interesting even to hear you say like, just, your words of like being forced into a corner, and then you making a decision, which was like, I decline. This is one system. I decline. Noted.
Yes. That's your favorite one.
Right. Noted. Right. Like all without judgment, like we can have judgment for it, but just to be like, okay, I see it very clearly for what it is. I'm out. And, this is what I'm going to do. And I think it's really interesting even to hear you say that, because even when I was sitting in my like MBA class, hearing about other people who are building businesses and who are taking ideas and doing something with them. And I was like, I could totally do that too. Like so the difference, so I think it's interesting because I didn't even have entrepreneurship wasn't in my vocabulary. Like it was, and I even remember being like, oh, I'll never, like, that wasn't even an option for me. I don't think of like creating a business or creating a service or a product that was sellable. And I even think about, like your t-shirts and stuff, like, and all like these small, not small, but like, and even like community baby shower, like a way to engage, on your own terms almost, right. In the way that you wanted to do it. And all these kind of stepping stones along the journey and along the way. And then like you were a budding entrepreneur, and long before anybody ever introduced the word to you. And I think it's the same kind of for many of us who embark on this. But it's just interesting, but yeah, the failure left and right and just getting back up. What if you tell me too a little bit about your t-shirts and stuff so that people know and they can go and buy them if they want. But like how, is that a part, would you consider that like a side gig of your business kind of?
Um, I guess I didn't, but it is. Essentially, we sell them as a fundraiser. So we create t-shirts around Juneteenth. Last year was just the Juneteenth design. I actually have on my t-shirt today.
Love it.
This was this year's. This year we wanted to focus on the Black woman, so we chose 4 historical figures that gave up their freedom for us to be free-ish. And so that's the Juneteenth term, is the free-ish. And we've also done a voting t-shirt for last election, I think. Yeah, last large election. So presidential election, about our ancestors dying so that we could have the right to vote. So we sell the t-shirts as a fundraiser. And so what I do love is that because people know it's a fundraiser, nobody ever complains about the price. They're like, yeah, I'll give you $40 for that. And so I think we also had to get out of our own headspace for that. I remember Tanisha saying with the first t-shirt, like, nobody is gonna give us $40 for a t-shirt. And I'm like, I think if we put fundraiser on it, people will give us money for the shirt, and literally nobody complains. And so each year it's grown, each time it's grown. And so, now that you've mentioned it, I just think of it as a fundraiser. Yeah. And so I don't think of it as making money, but it is. That's the whole point of the fundraiser.
Yeah. I mean, it's another revenue stream to your business.
Yes.
And you have multiple revenue streams of your business, which is to do some consulting. It's to do, your work almost as, I think, like a community aspect building of your work. Then you've got your t-shirts, and then you've got this work with the clinic, which will open shortly. So tell me this, if you had to give someone some sort of, and I want to be mindful of your time and respectful. If you had to give someone who is like where you were 2 to 3 years ago, in like some like heavy burnout and feeling all sorts of feelings about everything, systems, burnout, pandemic, like all this shit. What, if you had to give them some advice, what would you give them?
Number one, seek therapy. I'm a huge therapy person, and I think she played a big instrumental role in me stepping out and making and ensuring that my confidence exuded to step out, because it wasn't there. So therapy is great. Coaches, I remember thinking when you said you were going to be a coach, I'm like, that's a sham. Coaches are awesome. Coaches are awesome. And coaches come in all different forms, right? And so even when I created the large business of Village of Healing, we were still meeting with you some, and you were talking to us about multiple streams of income. And I remember Kristen Farmer, a very good friend of mine, came to me and said, so what are you gonna do to make money? And I said, well, Village of Healing and da-da-da-da-da. And she was like, nonprofits are awesome, and it's going to feed your bleeding heart soul. What are you going to do to make money? And I said, I have no idea, Kristen. And a conversation later, I butted Da'Na Langford Consulting. And so once you step out, once your mind just is, you're so free, you're so unbound. And you're so getting to know you. Like, you've only known you as a professional. And I know for Black people that looks completely different because of the code switch. And so sometimes we don't even get to know who we are as individuals. And so stepping away from the code switch, because think about it, if you're working 9 to 5, you're doing that 8 hours, 40 hours a week, sometimes 60, depending on your job. And so you don't get to just sit in who you are. And becoming an entrepreneur and stepping away from the drag, stepping away from the toxicness, the trauma, all of that. Take a minute and then get into you, discover you. It will be so easy after you do that to figure out your passion, because now you get to actually sit with you for a while, discover you, and figure out what makes you happy. And my profession made me happy. I just was unhappy in the way it was being delivered.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks?
No.
It's good. She talks about, it's probably something that just would resonate with you, but she talks about there's a zone of genius and a zone of excellence. And I think for, I don't know if this resonates for you, it does for me, which is that zone of genius, the zone of excellence work is work that you're very competent at, you develop proficiency at, you develop a level of confidence around, you can go and execute well. And I think I look at midwifery, the actual physical delivery of midwifery, doing wet mounts and catching babies and resolving shoulder dysocias, that kind of thing, as very tactical stuff that I became very proficient at. Zone of genius is work that it feeds you in a way that zone of excellence work will never feed you. And zone of genius is like, it like makes you get up out of bed. It makes you like hop up out of bed this morning, which interestingly I did, because I had an idea in bed and I was like, oh, I had been thinking about this nursing conference. And I was like, I don't even know, how would I even become an accredited provider of continuing education? And then I was like, oh, fuck, I know. I totally know. And so I literally got up out of bed. It was 4:45 and I was like I'm out, like I'm going, right to
yes.
to
Well,
do it. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but like but that's the level of, you think about like 3 years ago for you, I think about 3 to 5 years ago for me, and just being in a space that shit wasn't happening. I was not hopping out of bed, I was dreading it.
Yep. I was dreading it. I was gaining weight. I had headaches. I remember listening to rap music just to get to work, and it's still not helping. And even now, like, I'm not a morning person, and so, but it's no problem. Like, and even if my day starts later, like Tanisha was just yelling at me right before this call, because last night I was sending emails at 11 and 12 o'clock, and I was fine with it. Like, it never even dawned on me to be like, this is bull. But I remember at 11, 12 o'clock being up doing charts, thinking, I cannot believe I'm still up doing charts. And woke up again at 5 o'clock this morning, like, all right, let me send some text messages. And, it is. And it's still being a midwife. Like, I still get to be a midwife. And I wish that that's something that they would teach in the schools. And that's a part of what my organization, my personal side hustle is so we can teach organizations what else needs to be taught. But one of the things that they should say is midwifery goes beyond the tactical stuff. And let's talk about how else you can find yourself in what you do. And so that's the whole purpose of my consulting. And it's for Black providers specifically, because we don't have that mentorship. And we are taught, and I think it's generational, because I remember thinking, I can't quit my job, my family will kill me, right? Because my family goes to work every day, retired, like my mother has retired, returned to work, like 20 years, 30 years, this is what we do. And I remember moving jobs twice from Albany to St. Petersburg, and they were like, you're moving jobs too much. People gonna think you're unstable. And so we're taught to do that. And we're not taught, to really discover who we are and be happy going to work. And so I think, that niche was missing for Black providers, and the mentorship was missing for Black providers. And I wanted to step in and do that, because I have been blessed with the opportunity to do it. And I feel like I'm coming out unscathed. There's some days I question it, but for the most part, I feel like I'm coming out unscathed. And I want to be able to transfer that to other people, and to people that look like me in a system that is hell bent on not ensuring their success.
Yeah, that's huge. Remind me too, I got a gal for you who I think you would love.
Good.
Remind me. I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll text her later.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't matter. Have you met Brig Johnson or talked with her?
Mm-mm.
She is a coach she is a CRNA, and she is a coach for Black women in particular. She's Black herself. And she's like, we don't have enough like Black women coaching, Black professional women, like to get past all of the layers that come up, you know, and she's phenomenal. And I mean, I was just like, shit, I wonder if Brig will coach me, but I'm not Black. And then I was like, no, Brig's probably got her work cut out for her, like in terms of, you know, she's got such a service. Yeah, she'd be somebody just to, she's phenomenal. I mean, just in general, a human who's phenomenal, but somebody to just kind of look, maybe look up. All right. Well, this was so good. And this was, it was really nice to just, we haven't touched base in a little bit. So it was really nice to see your face, number one, but number two, also to just hear a little bit more about where you are and just some of your recommendations, I think advice. There's somebody in this group who will watch this video and who will feel something, either a bit of hopefulness that he or she can do something similar, or maybe some reassurance that what he or she's been through or they've been through is not that they're not alone. And so I thank you just for sharing that, because I think that's a huge, like that's a win, if nothing more. People just know that they're not alone. All right. What by the way, are you doing any sort of like fundraiser, any sort of like opening event for your clinic? Are you planning these details right now for December?
We are, but not for December. We're going to do it February because we don't want to interfere with the holidays for people and their families. So we are planning it for February. I'll make sure I get you the information so you can post it to the group for anybody that wants to come. But yes, it'll be a large ceremony at the clinic in February.
Yeah. And if people want to reach out to you and they would desire either to hear a little bit more about Village of Healing or the consulting that you do, how can they best reach you?
So Village of Healing has a website, villageofhealingcle.com. I have a website, Da'Na Langford, CSG.com. And my name is on the Zoom, I think anyways. And then my email address is Da'Na Langford, CNM, Certified Nurse Midwife, @gmail.com. So please feel free to reach out any of those ways.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. All right. Well, so good to see you. Thank you for your time today and sharing all of your experience. And this will be a huge first for several people in this group. I have no doubt about it. So, all right, Da'Na. All right. Keep going. Good. And wish you all the best for this December launch. I cannot wait to come down and see the space. And I'm personally looking forward to an invitation. I'm not going to be a moment bashful about that. Okay. Okay. I just want to be clear. Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. Good to see you.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.